Hey guys, tonight we're sailing into the sand-blown whispers of pirate treasure, where gold glitters just beneath the surface, or maybe doesn't exist at all. It's going to be a long journey, soft and slow, with plenty of sea breeze and more than a few questionable decisions. You'll be walking in the sunburnt boots of a pirate with more ambition than foresight and less upper body strength than treasure burial probably requires. You probably wouldn't survive this. Not because of the cutlasses or cannonballs, though those are definitely in the mix, but because you'd likely keel over from heat stroke before you manage to dig a hole deep enough to bury anything worth its weight in silver. Or you'd forget where you put it, or your map would turn into soup in a rainstorm. But hey, no pressure. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And while you're at it, drop a comment telling me where in the world you're listening from and what time it is where you are. I love seeing who else is drifting off to sleep on this weird little ship. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The map in your pocket is warm from the sun, or maybe it's warm because it was tucked against your hip for the last 3 days, folded 8 different ways, and stained with something suspiciously sticky. It smells faintly of oranges, pipe tobacco, and salt. Someone wrote on it with what looks like squid ink, and their handwriting is objectively terrible, slanted, shaky, uneven, with a tendency to loop its S like a swan that's had one too many swigs of grog. You're standing on the creaking deck of a sloop called the Two-Toothed Swan, which is not nearly as elegant as it sounds. The figurehead is chipped, the sails are patched with old shirts, the crew is asleep in awkward snoring bundles because they've all had their fill of salted fish and stale bread and don't feel like arguing about treasure until their morning rum, which leaves you alone on deck, squinting at a suspiciously soft piece of parchment that may or may not be leading you to the location of a forgotten pirate hoard. It reads, "Under black rock where the crab sleeps twice," which isn't helpful. There's no compass rose, no coordinates, just a jagged drawing of a crescent-shaped bay, a few palm trees scribbled in the margins, and something that might be a turtle or might be someone sneezing. And this is where it starts, not with gold, not with glory, but with confusion. Because here's the thing about pirate treasure maps, most of them are myths. The real pirates, they didn't draw elaborate riddles on parchment. They didn't waste time crafting clues. Most of them couldn't even write. And those who could, well, they weren't exactly making treasure hunts for future generations. They were making receipts. See, pirates weren't just roguish looters, they were chaotic accountants. If they hid something, they wanted to make sure they could find it again. So while you're holding this wrinkled mystery in your palm, trying to decode crab sleeps twice, your quartermaster is down below, etching coordinates into the spine of a Bible, or a rib bone, or his left boot. Pirates were inventive like that. Now that doesn't mean no treasure was ever buried. It just means most of it was buried in memory, not in sand. A few crews did stash their loot, but it was usually because they were fleeing someone scarier than themselves, like the British Navy, or angry ex-crew members, or unpaid brothel keepers. In those moments, yes, treasure got buried, but it wasn't planned. It was panic, and that's probably how you ended up with this map. Some long-dead sailor, desperate and cornered, scribbled directions to the one place he hoped no one would look. He probably didn't expect someone like you to come along and take it seriously. Still, you do, because it's night now, and the ship rocks gently beneath your boots, and the moonlight turns the sails ghost white. You stare at the drawing one more time, and swear the crab looks smug. So you whisper to no one in particular, "Let's find this sleeping crab." The next morning, you row ashore with the map clenched between your teeth and your boots full of sand. The island is quiet, too quiet, Coconut trees sway like they know something. The beach stretches out like a blank page, and you are the ink ready to scribble chaos across it. You poke around the black rocks on the northern point. Nothing, not even a sleepy crab, but something glints in the corner of your eye. It's a coin, worn thin, salt crusted, possibly Spanish, possibly chocolate. You bite it, just to be sure. Nope, definitely metal, and that one little coin is enough. You forget all skepticism. You forget all reason, because suddenly it feels real. Like maybe you're not the punchline of some ancient sailor's prank. Maybe there's something here. Maybe it's not buried treasure in the mythic sense, but in the very human, very desperate way of hiding what you can, where you must. And it's right there that the story takes hold. Not just your story, but the one that's been whispered over generations about pirates who dug holes under moonlight, muttered curses over their gold, and trusted the sand to keep their secrets. But if sand is anything, it's chatty. It shifts, it swallows, it remembers in strange ways. That's what you're about to find out, because the map in your pocket doesn't tell you about the tides or the rats or the other pirates who might be watching from the tree line. It only tells you that somewhere near a crab, a secret sleeps, and tonight you plan to wake it up. You stare at the map again. X marks the spot, you mutter, mostly for effect. It sounds dramatic, like something a bold adventurer might say before brandishing a shovel and uncovering centuries of gold. But the moment the words leave your mouth, the universe punishes your optimism because there is no X. There is instead a kind of squiggle. It might be a tentacle, or a worm, or the result of someone sneezing while trying to draw a straight line on a rocking boat. It's vaguely near a palm tree, or maybe a bird, or maybe it's just ink that bled in the rain. You hold it up to the light, tilt it, turn it upside down. Still no X. And now that you think about it, why would there be? It's not like pirates had Sharpies. They weren't carrying leather bound sketchbooks or gold leaf navigational journals. Most were functionally illiterate, and the ones who could draw maps often did so with the express purpose of misleading people, including themselves. So much for the legend. Historians now agree that X marks the spot is more Hollywood than Havana. There are no recorded maps from the golden age of piracy that use an X to mark anything other than someone's terrible penmanship. And yet, the myth persists. Maybe because it's tidy, comforting. An X tells you where to look. It promises reward without requiring trust. But pirates didn't think that way. They trusted only two things, the sea and no one. Still you look. You pace the beach, holding the map out in front of you like it might start speaking. Seagulls cry in the distance, probably mocking you. The tide sloshes against your ankles, slow and cold. The sand sucks at your boots like it's trying to keep you still, and somewhere inside, you begin to wonder if this whole thing is just a long game of make-believe, a prank played by time, a story so good it keeps telling itself. You sigh and sit on a sun-warmed rock, letting the breeze tangle your hair. There is something soothing about all this, even if you're being tricked. The act of looking, of searching for something forgotten. It slows your thoughts, pulls you out of your usual hurry. And there's a strange kind of peace in walking where others have walked, and wondering if someone a century ago stood on this exact rock, holding this same map, frowning at the same confusing squiggle. You press your palm to the page, hoping for answers. What you get is a splinter. Perfect. Still, the map isn't useless. It tries to help. That crescent-shaped bay? It's real. You can see it from here. And the rocks, the palm tree clusters, they're close, but not quite where the drawing suggests. That's the thing about old pirate maps. They weren't designed with precision. They weren't drawn to scale. Often, they were made from memory, drunken memory, usually while fleeing someone with better aim. And you begin to realize something else. This map isn't just a guide, it's a personality test. It's testing your patience, your creativity, your ability to interpret smudges. And guess what? 18th century pirates might have considered a reliable landmark. Spoiler, it was usually something that's no longer there, like a large rock shaped like a goat, or a tree with exactly 3 trunks, or a pile of seashells that blew away 200 years ago. And let's not forget, some maps were deliberately fake, made to sell stories, made to fool rivals, made to trap the greedy. There's a case, true or not, of a pirate who created dozens of near identical maps and handed them out to drunken sailors in port towns. He told each one a slightly different tale, let them believe they were the chosen confidant, and laughed as they ran off in different directions, digging holes in the same unfortunate stretch of beach. Historians still wonder if he was protecting something or just really, really bored. So maybe the map you're holding isn't a map at all. Maybe it's a dare. You fold it carefully and tuck it back into your shirt. The tide is lower now. More of the shoreline is exposed. Slick rocks, patches of seaweed, tiny crabs skittering in frantic little zigzags. You watch them for a while, half hoping one of them is guarding a chest full of doubloons. It's silly, but you check. They are not. And yet the story compels you. Not just this story, but all the stories, all the treasure maps, tucked into hollowed-out books, all the whispered directions passed from old men at the edge of their memory, all the promises of glittering coins beneath lonely sands. They keep going, not because they're real, but because they might be. There's a reason people still search for Captain Kidd's gold or Blackbeard's hidden stash. There's a reason someone always wants to believe in the next big find, because the idea of buried treasure is timeless, childlike, seductive. It's hope, disguised as adventure. So you stand up, dust the sand off your legs, take one more look at the map, and smile. No X, no problem. You're not here to follow instructions. You're here to chase something older than truth, a legend, a moment, a dream of finding something wonderful. Just out of sight, you take a deep breath. The salt stings your nose a little. Time to start walking. You don't mean to start digging. It just kind of happens. There's a patch of sand that feels slightly different. Firmer, flatter, maybe half a shade darker than the rest. Could be nothing. Could be a trap. Could be where some poor fool buried his shoes after giving up entirely. But you look left, then right. The shore is empty. The air is quiet in that eerie way only tropical islands can be, like the wind is holding its breath. And your fingers are twitchy. So you kneel. At first, it's easy. The sand slips through your fingers like warm sugar, It has that oddly satisfying squish and crumble texture, like wet flour or cake that's been left out in the rain. You dig a little faster. Something about the rhythm feels good, grounding, therapeutic even. You try to ignore the sweat dripping down your nose and the fact that you have no shovel or gloves or plan. Eventually, your hands hit something solid. You freeze, heart skipping just a little. You brush sand away like you're peeling back layers of time. A glint of something hard, metal, bone. You reach in with one hopeful, dramatic flourish and pull out a rock. Just a rock. Lumpy, unapologetic. Very much not treasure. You flop backward into the sand with an undignified grunt. It turns out that digging holes in paradise isn't as romantic as it sounds. In theory, this beach looks like the perfect hiding spot. Remote, quiet, framed by dense jungle. But in practice, it's a logistical nightmare. The sand collapses as fast as you dig. Your hole widens rather than deepens. Your arms are already sore. Your boots have become personalized sandboxes. And critically, there's nowhere stable to bury anything. That's the first thing real pirates realized, too. Most beaches, especially those near the tropics, are dynamic environments. The wind moves the dunes. The tides drag the edges. A buried chest one week might be poking out of the earth like a startled turtle the next. It's why most pirate loot, when it was actually hidden, wasn't hidden on beaches. They preferred caves, rocky outcroppings, tree roots, and if they had to use sand, they made markers, big ones, weird ones, things only they would recognize. A rusted anchor laid just so, a tree with a crooked branch, a pile of coral that spelled out someone's name. If you were squinting hard enough and had a vivid imagination, but you're here now, sweaty, sandy, slightly annoyed, and definitely more interested in the texture of the ground than you were an hour ago. And that counts for something, because you start to notice things. There are little shell fragments in the sand, sharp-edged and glittering. There's a faint smell of rotting seaweed, sweet and sour all at once. There are ants, so many ants, marching in slow columns, like tiny, six-legged cartographers. You watch them for a while. They seem to know what they're doing, unlike you. And then you wonder, what if pirates had followed ants? What if, in their desperation to hide something valuable, they mistook natural patterns for secret signs, or intentionally used nature as camouflage? Some historians think they might have. There are records of pirates timing their burials with the tides, or planting saplings on top of treasure to create future landmarks. It wasn't just about hiding, it was about remembering, but that required patience. And pirates weren't exactly famous for delayed gratification. That's where the contradiction lies. On one hand, they wanted their treasure to stay hidden forever. On the other, they usually planned to come back for it within the month, maybe two, assuming they lived that long, which statistically they didn't. So here you are, possibly standing over someone's failed retirement plan or someone's brilliant hiding spot that nobody else ever found, or more likely, absolutely nothing at all. You lie back on the sand and let the sun press against your face. There's something deliciously ridiculous about it all. Spending hours chasing ghosts, sifting through sand like a deranged beachcomber, hoping the ground will suddenly reveal its secrets with a polite ding. But it doesn't. What it does offer is silence, stillness, a kind of slow motion meditation you didn't expect. Your mind drifts. You picture a pirate, maybe someone like you, sweating under the same sun, digging with the same doubts, hiding something they knew they'd never see again. You wonder if they felt relief or regret. Historians still debate why pirates would bother burying treasure at all. Some believe it was strategic, others think it was symbolic, a ritual, a way to claim ownership over something they'd stolen, or maybe it was the only way to feel safe, even temporarily, in a world that was constantly shifting. Whatever the reason, it rarely worked. Most buried treasure was either lost, stolen, or forgotten. The map maker died. The crew scattered. The landmarks changed. And the sea, ever hungry, erased the evidence. You sit up, brushing sand from your elbows. Maybe you won't find gold here, but you are starting to understand the mindset, the desperation, the improvisation, the maddening need to do something with your loot, even if it means digging holes on a beach that doesn't care. You wander a little farther down the shore. There's a darker patch near the cliffside, maybe firmer ground, maybe just a shadow, but it's worth a look. After all, if pirates could bury treasure without knowing if they'd ever return, you can at least bury a few hours. You realize something terribly inconvenient. You have no shovel. There you are, caked in sand, chest puffed with ambition, possibly halfway to sunstroke, and you're using your hands like a raccoon digging for a lost snack. The thought comes too late. You've already scraped your knuckles raw, and there's a fresh blister blooming on the pad of your thumb. You flex your fingers and eye a nearby piece of driftwood with sudden inspiration. Maybe, just maybe, pirates were masters of improvisation because they had to be. The truth is, most pirate crews didn't carry toolkits. A shovel was heavy, expensive, and didn't fit well into a fast getaway. Cannons, yes. Rum, always. But proper digging equipment? Not exactly high on the list. Instead, they used what they had. And so do you. You pry up the driftwood. Light, rotten, smells faintly of fish and regret. It'll do. You dig with it like it's a ladle, scooping awkwardly, throwing clumps of sand behind you. It creaks ominously every few minutes, like it knows it wasn't designed for this. Eventually, it snaps in half. You thank it for its service. Then you try a flat shell, a split coconut, your own boot, which turns out to be surprisingly effective until you realize your sock is now full of something that might be a crab. You spend the next 3 minutes hopping in a circle and rethinking your life choices. And this is the moment most pirates reached, that quiet crossroads where practicality meets exhaustion, where they look at their loot, then look at the rocky, root-choked jungle behind them and wonder, do we really need to hide this? Or can we just put it somewhere slightly inconvenient? That's how treasure ended up inside hollow tree trunks, or stuffed under overturned boats, or dropped into shallow pools behind waterfalls. Places that felt hidden enough, but didn't involve digging through half a beach with a soggy shoe. One lesser known technique was using wreckage as camouflage, a collapsed hut, a ruined outpost, even graves. There are rumors still debated of pirates stashing treasure beneath fake tombstones, hoping the superstitious would leave it untouched. Some went further, carving names and dates onto driftwood markers to make the deception complete. You look around now and spot a few jagged rocks sticking up like crooked teeth. Could be natural, could be markers. The sand is thinner here, closer to clay. It resists you less. You try again with a sturdier stick, this time angled like a spade, and as you dig, a pattern forms, not in the dirt, but in the process. Dig, toss, rest, breathe. It's almost musical. You start humming without realizing it. An old sea shanty, something about a lady with eyes like rum and a mouth like cannon smoke. The kind of nonsense sailors sing when they're overtired and a little drunk. A breeze picks up. The ocean whispers just beyond the tree line, and somewhere far off, a gull screams like it just learned taxes exist. This is kind of nice. A quiet moment, a rhythm, a task. No noise, no clocks, no expectations. Just you, your makeshift spade, and a wildly implausible belief that maybe, just maybe, there's something shiny buried a few feet below. Historically, there have been pirate hordes found this way. Not many, but enough to keep the myth alive. In 1952, a man digging fence posts in the Philippines uncovered a small stash of Spanish coins. No one knows how they got there. Some blame pirates. Others say it was buried by retreating soldiers or traders. Still, the dream remains. Dig in the right place at the right time, and history might reward you. Of course, there's also the opposite, digging for hours and finding nothing but damp soil and disappointment. That's most of what historians expect. That's most of what you should expect. But logic isn't the fuel of treasure hunters. Hope is. You keep digging a little deeper now. The ground gets cooler, darker, almost musty. Your fingers graze something rough. Heart lurches. You dig faster. It's wood. No. Wait. Bark. A root. False alarm. But for half a second you believed, and that was enough. You sit back again and rest your hands on your knees. Here's the part no one talks about, how exhausting it is to hide treasure. It's not a glamorous cloak and dagger moment. It's sweat, dirt, splinters, bugs, and the overwhelming suspicion that you've just spent 3 hours doing something incredibly stupid. But pirates did it. Sometimes out of desperation, sometimes out of superstition, sometimes perhaps just to feel clever. There's a story, half myth, half maybe, of a crew that buried their hoard not once, but 3 times in 3 different places. Each member sworn to secrecy about only one location. They planned to cross-reference their memories later, like a pirate version of a Venn diagram. They all died in the same battle. No one ever returned. Historians still debate whether the treasure existed or if the whole thing was invented by an innkeeper trying to sell more rum to gullible travelers. You think about that as you stand, as your knees crack and your arms ache. You have no shovel, no clue, no guarantee, but you do have a hole now. It's shallow, a little crooked, and probably a safety hazard, but it's yours. You consider leaving something inside, a coin, a note, a scrap of the map. not for protection, not even for memory, but as an offering to what? You're not sure. The beach, the story, yourself. You reach into your pocket and pull out a button, one that popped off your shirt earlier. You smile and toss it in. It lands with a quiet plop, covered, gone, buried. You pat the dirt gently. No chest, no gold, just a button. But for now, that feels like enough. It's only now, staring at your awkward, lopsided hole, that you face an uncomfortable truth. You couldn't carry treasure, even if you found it. That's the part all the stories skip. The movies show a shiny chest glinting in torchlight, then cut to someone joyously hauling it over their shoulder like it's filled with marshmallows and loose change. But in reality, treasure is heavy, as in wrench your back, destroy your spleen heavy. Let's say it's a chest of silver coins, just one, a modest pirate payday. That could easily weigh over 100 pounds. Add gold, you're pushing 200. And you, alone, with no pulley system, no crew, no wheelbarrow, and absolutely no upper body strength to speak of, are going to what? Drag it up a hill with your teeth? You brush sand off your palms and glance at the path back through the trees. It's steep, it's muddy, it's laughing at you, and you begin to understand why pirates weren't as obsessed with burying treasure as modern myths claim. Hiding something is one thing, transporting it is another, especially if you've just stolen it and are running for your life. Most of the time, pirates didn't hide loot. They spent it quickly, recklessly, sometimes all in one port, sometimes all in one night, because carrying too much treasure was as risky as a mutiny, maybe more, which is probably why, historically, most pirate hoards weren't dramatic chests of coins, but smaller stashes, coins sewn into belts, jewels hidden in boots, a few silver spoons tucked into the lining of a coat, easily concealed, easily carried, easily forgotten. You try to imagine doing the same, tucking coins into your socks, wrapping pearls in a bandana, and pretending it's a lunch. But that doesn't satisfy the part of your brain that wants drama, the part that still dreams in movie logic, the part that wants to find a gleaming wooden box lined with velvet and legend. That part of you still scans the horizon with greedy eyes. You follow a narrow trail leading up a small incline, roots snake across the path like lazy tripwires. Your legs protest every step. There's a sticky dampness in the air now, the kind that makes everything feel like it's melting. Your shirt, your thoughts, your faith in this whole endeavor. But the view at the top is worth it. The cove stretches out below, curving like a smile full of secrets. The sand, golden in the late afternoon light, seems impossibly soft, too gentle to hold anything as worldly as gold. And there's your boat bobbing patiently in the water, as if to say, "You ready to give up yet?" You sit on a rock and rest your arms across your knees. There's a breeze up here, a gift. You let it wash over you like a lullaby. And then, just below you, something catches your eye. Not gold, not a chest, just a glint. You scramble down a few feet. There, half covered in soil, is a rusted iron ring. You tug on it. It doesn't budge, It's embedded in something. You dig, slowly, carefully, with your fingers and a flat stone. You uncover the outline of a box. Not large, not ornate, but real, wooden, reinforced with iron. The kind of box that could survive the elements for a few decades. Your heart pounds. Could this be it? You clear the dirt. The hinges are eaten with rust. The lock is just gone. You pry the lid open with the same stone, expecting a triumphant moment, a gleam, a gasp. Inside, rope, just rope, old coarse, smelling of mildew and moss. Beneath that, more disappointment, a few nails, a hook, a dented brass goblet. Definitely not treasure, but maybe it was useful once. You smile in spite of yourself. This is probably more accurate than any story you've heard. Not treasure, but tools, left behind, forgotten, meant to be found by the same hands that buried them, or someone like you. Historians argue about these small finds. Some think they were decoys. Others believe they were caches, backup supplies for pirates planning to return. Still others think they were simply forgotten because life moved too fast and pirates, like everyone else, were really bad at long-term planning. You pack the goblet carefully in your satchel. It's dented and worthless, but it feels earned, like a relic from a chapter that most people skim past. And here, as the sun dips lower and the shadows stretch longer, you begin to grasp a quiet truth. Pirates didn't bury treasure expecting it to last forever. They buried it, hoping they'd live long enough to get it back. That was the gamble. Hide it now, survive the storm, come back when things calm down. But most never got the chance. Storms lasted longer. Navies caught up. Sickness spread. Maps were lost. The beach changed. The treasure stayed. You rise slowly, letting the breeze cool the sweat at the base of your neck. Below, the water laps at the shore in a lazy rhythm. Your boat sways gently. The trail winds back the way you came, like a thought half remembered. And the box, now empty, lies at your feet, its usefulness long gone, its purpose fulfilled. Maybe that's all treasure really is. Not gold, not silver, just something hidden, waiting to be found, even if it's only to remind someone they're still looking. You pick up your walking stick, formerly known as Shovel Hash 3, and head down the path again, still empty-handed, still curious, still chasing the weight of something worth carrying. You decide to bury your hoard close to the shore. It seems logical. Easy access, quick escape routes, and the comforting sound of waves to drown out any suspicious noises. You find a spot nestled between two jagged rocks, just beyond where the tide usually reaches. Perfect, or so you think. You dig with the last remnants of energy you can muster. Sand slips through your fingers, stubborn and uncooperative. Your makeshift shovel breaks again. The sun climbs higher, making your skin prickle. You press onward, heart pounding, breath ragged. Finally, you place your imagined chest into the hole, cover it with sand, and mark the spot with a jagged stick you break from a nearby bush. You think safe, perfect, but the ocean has other plans. That night, as you drift into a light sleep in your hammock, the tide creeps higher than usual. Waves nibble at the shore with growing boldness. Morning reveals the horror. Your carefully concealed treasure site is no longer there. The sand is reshaped, the stick gone, and your hole filled with nothing but smooth, unblemished beach. You're left staring at the ever changing shoreline, realizing how futile your efforts might be. And you're not alone in this misfortune. Historically, pirates learned quickly that the tides were unrelenting thieves. Many treasures buried close to water were swallowed whole by the sea, swept away by storms, or uncovered by animals and other humans long before their owners returned. Sometimes the water didn't just erase the treasure, it rewrote the coastline. Entire islands shifted shape or disappeared altogether, leaving treasure maps useless and hopes dashed. You realize the irony. The ocean, the very thing pirates conquered, was also their greatest obstacle in protecting their spoils. And what about thieves? Not the sea, but other pirates, rival crews, or opportunistic locals often found these hidden caches first. Pirates lived in a world of betrayal and shifting alliances. A hiding spot was only as good as its secrecy, and secrets were the first things to leak when rum flowed too freely. Some pirates tried to outsmart this by burying their treasure multiple times, spreading it out in small caches, or entrusting parts of their loot to different crew members. But that just increased confusion and sometimes led to treasure being forgotten or fought over. Historians still wonder whether some buried treasure stories were more about bluff than actual loot, tall tales to keep enemies guessing and crews loyal. You gaze out at the restless waves, feeling the soft hum of the tide against the hull of your ship. The sea's whisper is both promise and threat. Burying treasure by the shore is easy. Keeping it safe, that's an entirely different story. You're standing under the swaying palms, looking up at their towering trunks and glossy leaves rustling softly in the breeze. Somewhere nearby, a coconut falls with a heavy thud that makes you jump. You wipe sweat from your brow and consider the strange idea of hiding treasure in the trees. It sounds like a smart plan. High ground out of reach of the tide and less likely to be disturbed by casual beachcombers. You find a sturdy branch, low enough to reach without much trouble. Wrapping a bundle of coins and small trinkets tightly in a cloth, you nestle it among the leaves and vines. It feels oddly satisfying, like tucking a secret into a natural safe. The coconut palms sway, indifferent guardians of your makeshift vault. But coconuts? They're the pirate's version of nature's unreliable safes. For one, coconuts are famously tough to open, but easy to crack. Pirates knew better than to rely on something so perishable to protect their gold. In fact, coconuts were more valuable as food and water sources than as treasure containers. Also, trees aren't exactly inconspicuous. A missing cluster of leaves or a suspiciously bulging branch could draw unwanted attention, especially from curious birds or rival treasure hunters. You listen carefully to the birdsong, a chorus of mockingbirds and boobies. The island's unintentional sentinels. Some pirates took advantage of birds' natural instincts, hoping they'd warn of approaching threats. Others believed that if birds avoided a certain spot, it might be hiding something valuable. There's a fascinating story about a pirate who supposedly hid his treasure in a hollow coconut tree, marking it with carvings only he understood. Unfortunately, he was captured before retrieving it, and the tree eventually fell during a storm. Locals still debate whether the treasure was ever found or if it remains buried under layers of jungle debris. Birds, trees, coconuts. Nature's vaults are charming but unpredictable. They can protect your loot one day and betray it the next. You tuck the bundle securely and step back, watching the sunlight filter through the leaves in dancing patches. You almost believe your treasure is safe here. Almost. You glance down and notice a curious crab scuttling towards your hiding spot, its pincers clicking like tiny locks. You wonder if it's the same crab from your map, still sleeping, still guarding secrets beneath the sun. For all their resourcefulness, pirates knew that hiding treasure required patience, planning, and sometimes a little luck, or maybe just the willingness to admit defeat and spend your gold before anyone else gets to it. You smile and decide to move on, letting the rustling palms keep their whispered secrets a little longer. The jungle looms ahead, thick and tangled, a green fortress full of shadows and secrets. You can hear the distant hum of insects and the occasional snap of a twig underfoot, reminders that you're not alone. Somewhere, a bird calls out a sharp warning, or maybe just a complaint about your noisy arrival. You pause, considering the idea of hiding treasure in this wild labyrinth. It's far from the beach, away from prying eyes, and the dense foliage offers natural camouflage. But the jungle is a maze, ever changing, dense and unkind to anything buried beneath its roots. Pirates often favored hiding places deep within forests, especially when they had time to bury and mark their loot carefully. A hollow tree trunk, a cluster of unusual roots, or a shallow grave beneath a distinctive boulder could all serve as landmarks. But these hiding spots were risky. The jungle grew fast, landmarks shifted, and returning to the exact spot after months or years was tricky, to say the least. There's a curious tale about a pirate who carved a crude map into the bark of a tree near his hiding spot, each notch and scratch a coded message. The problem? The tree was struck by lightning and died within a year, its bark peeling away and taking the secret with it. Historians still wonder if that treasure is buried somewhere under a canopy of new growth, forgotten and waiting. You brush aside vines and push through low branches, your boots sinking into the damp earth. The air smells thick with moss and decay, but also a faint trace of salt and sea spray, reminders of the ocean not far away. Somewhere beneath your feet, roots twist like serpents, anchoring this wild place to the earth. You pause at a clearing, noticing a large, oddly shaped rock that seems out of place, too smooth, too symmetrical. Could it be a marker, a natural anomaly? You examine it closely, There's a faint carving on one side, worn smooth by time but still visible. It looks like a symbol, maybe a circle with a cross or a compass rose scratched by a careful hand. Historians debate whether pirates used such symbols to mark their treasure or if they were simple doodles left behind by bored sailors. The truth might be somewhere in between, a mix of superstition, practicality, and misdirection. You take a mental note of the rock and press on, feeling the jungle close around you like a living wall. You think about the countless pirates who navigated this very terrain, balancing fear and hope. Every rustle, every shadow, every crack of a twig might have meant danger or promise. You wonder if the treasure is here, hidden beneath layers of earth and roots, waiting for someone patient enough to uncover it, or if it's already been found, repurposed, lost again in the wild dance of history. Either way, the jungle keeps its secrets well. You pause to catch your breath. The thick jungle air, heavy in your lungs and sticky on your skin. Leaves brush your face, and the distant cry of a tropical bird cuts through the constant hum of insects. The forest floor beneath your boots feels spongy, and somewhere nearby, the faint drip of water hints at hidden streams. This is the kind of place pirates dreamed of when they thought of hiding treasure, remote, tangled, and nearly impossible for the uninvited to navigate. But it's also the kind of place where you lose track of time and direction fast. As you brush aside a cluster of vines, your fingers stumble upon something hard and smooth. You pull back leaves and soil to reveal a small wooden box, surprisingly well preserved despite the damp. Your heart skips a beat. The box is plain but sturdy, bound with rusted iron bands. No lock, no markings, just an object waiting to be rediscovered. Inside, you find a handful of old coins, some Spanish reals, a few Dutch ducats, their edges worn by time. Alongside them is a small leather pouch containing what looks like seeds. Strange. You sit back against a tree and let your mind wander. Why seeds? Were they meant as a gift, a trade item, a symbol of new beginnings? Pirates weren't just thieves. Some tried to start anew, planting roots far from their chaotic pasts. You think about the buried treasure stories. How many are about gold? How many about hope? And how many about survival in a world that didn't care much for either? There's an open question among historians about whether pirates sometimes buried goods as a way to keep their crews fed later, stashing supplies rather than riches, or if these caches were simply ways to mark territory or make claims in an ever-shifting world. You take a deep breath and tuck the coins and seeds back inside the box. The jungle seems to lean in, as if listening. And maybe it is. The secret is not just in the gold or the gems, but in the stories hidden beneath the soil, tangled in roots, whispered by leaves. You rise, dust off your hands, and press onward. After all, the journey is just beginning. The sky above you deepens from bright blue to a soft lavender as dusk approaches. The forest seems to exhale, shadows stretching longer, cooling the air, and a gentle chorus of nighttime creatures begins to stir. You pause at a small clearing, the last golden light filtering through the leaves, casting everything in a warm, forgiving glow. You think about the legend of buried treasure as a promise, an invitation to dream and to hope, but also as a trap, a distraction from the reality of pirate life, which was brutal, short, and unpredictable. Pirates rarely had the luxury of careful planning. Their lives were shaped by storms, betrayals, and the ever present threat of capture. The treasure they did hide was often a temporary fix, a safety net thrown out just in case they survived the next battle or the next month. You find yourself tracing a line in the dirt, absent mindedly drawing shapes and symbols. It feels almost like you're trying to create your own map, a map that makes sense only to you. Historians still debate the extent to which pirates trusted each other with treasure's location. Some believe that only a captain or a few trusted officers knew the secret, while others think the knowledge was spread out as a survival tactic. So if one crew member was caught or killed, the treasure wasn't lost forever. There's also the odd practice of decoy treasure, fake caches meant to mislead enemies and keep real loot safer. Some of these decoys were simple piles of rocks or empty chests, while others were elaborate schemes involving false maps and secret codes. You wonder if the treasure you seek is real, or if it's one of those clever deceptions. The thought doesn't bother you. The mystery is part of the magic. You lean back against a mossy tree trunk and close your eyes, letting the sounds of the forest wash over you. Somewhere, a nightjar calls, its soft, repetitive song a lullaby from the past. The world outside fades away. For now, you are not a treasure hunter. You are simply a traveler in a story that stretches across centuries, and that is enough. The air is cooler now, thick with the scent of damp earth and decaying leaves. The jungle is alive with sound. The chirp of crickets, the distant hoot of an owl, and the occasional rustle of unseen creatures moving just beyond your sight. The shadows deepen, wrapping the trees in a velvet cloak that makes every shape seem mysterious and every sound amplified. You tread carefully, the soft ground muffling your footsteps. The thrill of the hunt mingles with a strange calm, like you're part of something much bigger than yourself. Somewhere in the undergrowth lies the echo of centuries old secrets, waiting to be uncovered or forever lost. Pirates didn't just hide treasure to keep it safe, they hid it to control the future, to hedge their bets in a dangerous world. But time was often their fiercest enemy. Maps faded, memories blurred, and the landscape changed. The very jungles you walk through now have swallowed countless clues, reshaping the land with each rainy season. You stop by a moss-covered stone, running your fingers over its rough surface. There's something carved here, faint and worn, maybe a symbol, maybe a letter. Your fingers trace the grooves, trying to decipher a message left for someone long gone. Historians speculate about these signs. Were they real markers for buried loot, or simple graffiti left by bored sailors marking their territory? The truth is lost in the mists of time, but the mystery itself fuels your journey. You settle down, letting the forest sounds lull you into a gentle reverie. You think about the pirates who walked here, who hid their dreams beneath the soil, and wonder if any of their hopes ever came true. The night deepens around you, thick and velvety, the canopy above blotting out all but the faintest stars. Fireflies flicker like tiny lanterns, drifting lazily in the warm, humid air. Somewhere nearby, a frog croaks, a deep, resonant sound that echoes through the stillness. You feel the weight of the jungle pressing in, alive with life and mystery, but also with silence that speaks louder than any words. You settle on a fallen log, worn smooth by time and weather. Your hands are scraped and dirty from the day's digging, but there's a strange comfort in the tactile connection to the earth and history beneath you. It's as if the land itself remembers the footsteps of pirates, the whisper of sails, the promises made in the dead of night. You pull out a small piece of parchment from your pack, the map you found, now soft and creased, its ink faded, but still holding the mystery you chased. You run your fingers over the lines and squiggles, trying to find a pattern, a hint, something that might unlock the secret. There's a question that lingers, unspoken. Did pirates actually expect to return for their buried treasure, or was the act of hiding it more symbolic, an attempt to claim some control over chaos, to leave a mark that might outlast their fleeting lives? Historians still debate this. Some argue that treasure maps and hidden hoards were mostly myths or exaggerations, designed to impress or intimidate. Others believe that while some pirates did bury loot, the majority preferred to spend or trade their riches quickly. You think about the paradox, the need to hide, to protect, versus the need to use, to enjoy, to live. Pirates lived on the edge of risk, where survival often meant embracing the moment rather than planning for an uncertain future. As you fold the map carefully and tuck it away, the jungle seems to breathe around you. The night creatures sing their timeless song, and you feel a gentle pull towards rest, a slowing of thoughts. The treasure may be lost, hidden or never real, but the journey, the search itself, is a treasure of its own. You close your eyes, letting the sounds and shadows carry you softly towards sleep. The dawn breaks slowly, soft pink and orange hues bleeding through the thick canopy. Overhead, a cool breeze stirs the leaves, carrying the faint salty tang of the sea mingled with the earthy scent of damp wood and moss. You rise from your resting spot, muscles stiff but spirit curious, ready to continue this strange, slow dance with history. You consider the notion that treasure hunting wasn't always about gold or jewels. It was about survival, legacy, and sometimes sheer stubbornness. Pirates hid their loot, not just to keep it safe from others, but to safeguard a sliver of hope in a world that often offered none. Your path leads you toward a shallow cave carved into the limestone cliffs, dark and inviting. The entrance is cloaked in hanging vines, and a faint drip echoes inside, a slow, steady rhythm like a heartbeat. You step carefully over moss-covered stones, the air cooling as you go deeper. Inside, the light fades, but the cave's cool breath feels like relief from the humid jungle outside. You run your hands along the rough walls, fingers tracing ancient etchings, scratches that might be natural, or perhaps messages left by past visitors, warnings or directions encoded in symbols long forgotten. There's a story of a pirate crew who hid their treasure in such a cave, marking the entrance with a carved skull and crossbones, a grim reminder to intruders. Some say they rigged traps, simple crude mechanisms to deter the curious. Whether true or legend, the tale speaks to the cunning and paranoia that often accompanied treasure hiding. You find a narrow passage leading further in, the floor uneven beneath your boots. The sound of water grows louder, and soon you reach an underground pool, its surface glassy and still. The air smells faintly of salt and minerals. You crouch beside the pool and peer into its depths. The water is dark but clear enough to reveal shapes beneath, stones, roots, maybe something else. Historians still wonder if pirates used natural caves like this to store treasure, leveraging nature's own vaults to protect their wealth. The isolation and difficulty of access made caves ideal hiding places, but also risky. Flooding, collapse, or discovery by locals could ruin even the best laid plans. You feel a quiet awe at the idea that beneath your feet lies a labyrinth of secrets, shaped by time and tide, waiting for someone patient enough to listen. You step back into the sunlight, the jungle greeting you anew. The treasure isn't always gold or jewels. Sometimes it's the echoes and shadows, the stories etched into stone and memory. And as you walk away, the cave's cool darkness lingers in your thoughts, a reminder that the past is never far beneath the surface. You find yourself on a narrow, winding path, weaving up the hillside, the dense jungle canopy thinning just enough to let in patches of golden light. The air is filled with the scent of wild orchids and damp earth, mixed with a faint trace of salt carried from the sea below. Each step feels like a small victory, muscles protesting, but your curiosity urging you forward. Up here, the world feels different, more silent, except for the distant call of parrots and the occasional rustle of small creatures darting through underbrush. The island seems ancient, timeless, and indifferent to the dramas played out on its shores centuries ago. You pause to catch your breath beside a weathered stone, its surface etched with moss and lichen. The texture is rough beneath your fingertips, and the faint outline of a symbol, an anchor, maybe, or a compass rose, lingers beneath the green growth. Marks like these could be clues, warnings, or mere graffiti, left by bored sailors or pirates trying to claim this wild place as their own. You think about how pirates marked their territory, using subtle signs that only they or trusted crew members would recognize. It wasn't just about hiding treasure, it was about creating a map woven into the land itself, a secret language made of stones, trees, and scars. There's a curious theory among historians that some pirate crews used elaborate natural markers, arrangements of stones, piles of coral, twisted branches, to guide themselves back to their hidden caches. Others believed in misdirection, placing false markers to confuse pursuers and protect the real treasure. You remember the stories of treasure maps, sometimes cryptic, sometimes downright nonsensical, designed to protect secrets even from those meant to find them. The infamous X that marks the spot might have been more legend than reality, with real clues hidden in riddles or nature's own signs. As you continue your climb, the ocean comes into view, vast, shimmering, and endless. The waves crash rhythmically against jagged rocks, a reminder of the relentless power that shaped this island and the fortunes buried within it. You stop to watch a pelican gliding low over the water, its shadow fleeting across the sun-dappled surface. The scene feels suspended in time, a snapshot of a world where pirates once sailed, fought, and dreamed. You wonder how many treasures lie still untouched here, lost in the folds of jungle, beneath layers of sand, or swallowed by the sea. And you realize that sometimes the greatest treasure isn't gold or jewels, but the stories carried on by the wind, whispered among the leaves, and preserved in the earth itself. You take a deep breath, savoring the salty air, and press onward, drawn deeper into the island's mysteries. You continue onward, the sun now casting long, lazy shadows across the forest floor, painting everything in a soft golden glow. The air is cooler here, infused with the scent of damp wood and the faint fragrance of wild flowers blooming unseen. Your footsteps are muffled by a thick carpet of fallen leaves and moss, and the occasional snap of a twig reminds you how alive this place truly is. The ground slopes gently downward toward a small clearing where sunlight spills in like a spotlight. You spot a large, flat stone sitting alone, its surface etched with strange symbols and lines. An ancient map, perhaps, or a marker carved by hands long since turned to dust. You kneel, tracing the worn carvings with your fingers. The symbols seem to form a pattern, a puzzle left to those clever enough to decipher it. There's a circle, intersected by lines that radiate outward like spokes of a wheel. Could it be a compass? Could. Pirates often use such carvings to mark their hidden hoards, leaving clues only their trusted crew could understand. Sometimes these carvings were simple, other times deliberately misleading to throw off thieves and rivals. Historians debate the accuracy and purpose of these symbols. Some argue they were primitive maps, while others think they were superstitions or even art. The truth remains elusive, buried beneath layers of time and myth. You stand and look around, imagining the crew who might have gathered here centuries ago, plotting their next move or bidding farewell to a treasure lost to the ages. The clearing is peaceful, but you feel the weight of countless untold stories pressing down, urging you to look deeper. Nearby, you spot a cluster of twisted roots wrapping around a hollow log, a perfect hiding spot if you were a pirate looking to stash something quickly. You crouch and peer inside, half expecting to find a glint of gold or a hint of the past. Instead, there's only damp earth and the faint scent of decay. You smile, knowing that not every secret is waiting to be found. Some remain buried, safe from the passage of time and the greed of men. As you rise, the first stars begin to twinkle through the canopy, promising another night filled with whispered tales and restless dreams. You feel a quiet satisfaction, a connection to the past, and the endless allure of the unknown. The treasure may be hidden, but the journey itself is a treasure beyond measure. The night air wraps around you like a velvet cloak, cool and soothing against your skin. The distant murmur of waves blends with the crackle of your small campfire, casting flickering shadows that dance over the rough bark of nearby trees. Somewhere overhead, stars pierce the darkness, silent, ancient witnesses to countless secrets buried beneath the earth and sea. You sit back, feeling the smoothness of the worn map in your hands, its edges curled and fragile, the ink faded but still legible enough to tease out faint trails and marks. This isn't just a piece of paper, it's a bridge connecting you to a world long vanished, to pirates who dared to dream beyond the horizon, who trusted their lives to the whims of the sea and the fortunes buried deep within the land. You think about the clever tricks pirates used to protect their treasure. Some believed that hiding it beneath a lone tree or a twisted root would be safe enough. Others relied on secret codes and riddles, encrypted in cryptic carvings or whispered legends. You recall tales of false treasure buried to mislead rivals, elaborate decoys that might look valuable but were worthless. It's a reminder that piracy was as much about deception and survival as about gold and glory. There's a story about a pirate captain who left behind a series of clues scattered across the island, symbols carved into rocks, notches in trees, even subtle changes in the landscape to mislead anyone who tried to follow. Only the most trusted crew member knew the true path, and even then, only because of a promise sealed in blood and secrecy. Historians still debate whether such elaborate schemes were real or just fanciful myths crafted over time. But the allure of the mystery persists. You trace the faint lines on the map, feeling the thrill of a puzzle yet to be solved, the promise of a story waiting to unfold. As the firelight flickers and the jungle hums softly around you, a gentle calm settles over your thoughts. The treasure isn't just what's buried, it's the stories, the hopes, and the whispers of the past that keep the adventure alive. The first light of dawn creeps through the leaves, casting slender beams that scatter across the forest floor like shy whispers. The world feels suspended between night and day, caught in a fragile moment of quiet promise. You stretch, the stiffness of yesterday's journey still lingering, but your mind feels sharper, ready to dive deeper into the island's tangled secrets. You decide to explore a forgotten cove, a place where the sea meets rugged cliffs, waves pounding against the rocks in a relentless rhythm. The air here is cooler, tinged with salt and the crisp bite of ocean spray. You tread carefully over slick stones, eyes scanning for any sign, a subtle indentation, a pile of stones, a weathered mark that might hint at a hidden cache. Pirates often use natural features like coves, caves, and rocky outcrops as secret hiding spots. These locations offered natural concealment and difficult access for would-be treasure hunters, but they came with their own risks, unpredictable tides, dangerous footing, and the ever-present possibility of discovery. You find a narrow fissure between two massive boulders, just wide enough for you to squeeze through. Inside, the air is cool and damp, smelling faintly of salt and earth. Your flashlight beam dances over jagged walls and a floor littered with shells and seaweed. Something glints beneath a pile of stones, a small, ornate box, tarnished but unmistakably crafted by human hands. Inside, you find several gold coins, their surfaces worn but still gleaming faintly in the dim light. Alongside them, a faded piece of parchment with cryptic symbols and numbers, perhaps a code or a clue left behind. Historians debate whether such coastal caches were common among pirates or rare exceptions. Some believe these spots were favored for short term storage, places to hide loot quickly before moving on. Others think they were traps, bait laid to mislead rivals and authorities. You pocket the coins and study the parchment, wondering what secrets it holds. The ocean's roar fills the cave, a constant reminder that nature's power is both ally and adversary in the eternal dance of hiding and seeking. As you emerge from the cave, sunlight warms your face and the salty breeze fills your lungs. You feel the pulse of history beneath your feet, the echoes of lives lived in shadows and daring. The treasure may be hidden, lost, or forever beyond reach. But the island's story, etched in stone, whispered by waves, and carried on the wind, remains alive, inviting you to listen. You walk back toward the jungle's edge, heart lighter, mind buzzing with questions yet to be answered. The sun is sinking low now, painting the sky in a fiery cascade of reds and purples that slowly fades into deep indigo. The evening air is cool and fragrant with a scent of salt and blooming night flowers. And somewhere in the distance, the steady beat of drums, or is it the ocean's rhythm, echoes softly. You stand at the edge of the beach, toes curling into the damp sand, and take a deep breath, feeling the weight of history settle gently over you. You think about the final step in the long, frustrating process of hiding treasure, the map. Not just any map, but the kind that would lead a trusted few back to the loot, a promise of wealth waiting beneath the earth or beneath waves. Drawing such a map required a delicate balance of secrecy and clarity, coded symbols and misleading details, so only the chosen could follow. Pirates often relied on crude sketches, symbols etched onto weathered parchment, or even verbal directions passed down like sacred secrets. Some maps were cryptic puzzles designed to confuse anyone not in the know, with landmarks that shifted over time or used riddles instead of straightforward instructions. You pull out a crumpled piece of paper from your pack, a reproduction of a pirate map you found in a dusty book. The ink is faded, the edges ragged, but the X marking the spot is bold and deliberate. You trace the winding path with your finger, imagining the hands that drew it, the hopes pinned on the journey it promised. There's an odd tension in the very idea of the map. On one hand, it's a guide, a way to reclaim what was hidden. On the other, it's a temptation, a beacon for thieves, rivals, and dreamers alike. The more people know, the less safe the treasure becomes. Historians still debate whether pirates genuinely trusted anyone with these maps, or if many were elaborate fabrications, tools of intimidation, morale boosters, or even distractions. You fold the map carefully and tuck it away, a talisman of mystery and possibility. You look around at the shifting shadows cast by the flickering fireflies, the gentle waves tracing patterns in the sand, and the vast night sky stretching infinitely overhead. The island holds its secrets close, but it also invites the curious, the patient, and the brave to seek them out. You sit quietly, the gentle sounds of the ocean and night wrapping around you like a soft lullaby. Tonight, the treasure isn't just gold or silver, it's the story itself, whispered by the waves, etched into the land, and carried in your own steady heartbeat. Night deepens around you, thickening into a rich velvet canopy dotted with countless stars. The warm glow of your campfire flickers gently, sending playful shadows into the trees and illuminating the worn map in your hands. The air smells of salt, earth, and a faint trace of burning wood, grounding you firmly in this moment suspended between past and present. You think about how pirates often relied not just on physical markers or maps, but on stories and legends to keep treasures' locations secret. These tales, half truths, exaggerations, and outright fabrications, were passed from mouth to mouth, becoming tangled in myth and mystery. Sometimes the story was the treasure itself, a lure to mislead rivals and protect the real loot. There's a fascinating tale of a pirate captain who spread false rumors about his treasure's location, sending enemies on wild goose chases while quietly stashing his real haul elsewhere. This game of deception was as vital as any sword fight or sea battle. Survival depended on outwitting both nature and man. You imagine the whispers shared around the fire, the coded language, and secret hand signals used to communicate these hidden truths. It was a world where trust was rare and betrayal common, making secrecy not just a choice but a necessity. You also consider the psychological side of treasure hiding, the comfort it might have given pirates facing uncertain futures. The act of burying gold could have been a way to claim some control in a chaotic life, a promise to return, a safeguard against the unknown. Historians still debate how many pirates actually succeeded in recovering their buried treasure. Some believe most caches were forgotten or lost, swallowed by nature or time. Others think the very idea of treasure maps was mostly a legend, popularized by books and stories rather than reality. You close the map and look up at the sky, feeling the vastness of history pressing gently around you. The stars above have witnessed centuries of secrets, adventures, and dreams, their light unchanged by human folly. Tonight you are part of that continuum, both seeker and keeper of stories, standing at the edge of legend and reality. You lean back against a tree, letting the crackling fire and distant waves lull you into a quiet calm. The treasure may remain hidden, but its stories shine bright, guiding those patient enough to listen. The air is cool now, tinged with salt, and the faint, earthy aroma of the forest floor beneath your feet. The sky above fades from indigo to a deep starry black, the constellations silent sentinels, watching over the island's secrets. You stand at the edge of the beach, the gentle lapping of waves, providing a steady, soothing rhythm, nature's own heartbeat, syncing with your own. You think about how pirates often faced a dilemma, to bury or not to bury. On one hand, treasure hidden beneath the earth or sand offered a chance at safety, a promise of future wealth if the seas turned against them. On the other, burying treasure was risky, a gamble that you'd survive long enough to reclaim it and that no one else would find it first. Pirates were pragmatic creatures, after all, and many preferred to spend or trade their loot quickly rather than risk losing it to time or tide. There's a famous saying from pirate lore: a pirate's treasure is only worth what you can carry. You reflect on the paradox of buried treasure, the lure of hidden wealth versus the harsh realities of pirate life. The sea was unforgiving, alliances fragile, and betrayal common. Holding on to gold meant vulnerability. There's a story about Captain William Kidd, whose buried treasure became the stuff of legend and fueled countless searches and fantasies, even centuries later. His hoard's existence was both confirmed and questioned, adding to the mythos surrounding pirates and their hidden riches. Historians still argue about how much treasure Kidd and other pirates actually buried, or if much of the lore was invented after their deaths to embellish tales and inspire treasure hunters. You feel the fine grains of sand slipping between your fingers as you sit gazing out over the restless sea. The moon rises, casting a silver path across the water, a shimmering invitation to explore, to dream, and maybe, just maybe, to find. But for now, you are content to simply listen to the waves, feel the night air, and be part of a story that spans centuries. You lean back, eyes heavy but mind alive, as the island's quiet embrace carries you gently toward rest. The morning mist curls lazily over the shoreline as you awaken, the soft whisper of the ocean mingling with the distant call of seabirds. The air is crisp and salty, filled with the promise of discovery and the quiet magic of the island's untouched corners. You rise, the sun's first golden rays filtering through the swaying palms, casting long shadows and setting the world aglow with warmth. As you walk along the beach, your thoughts drift to the practicalities of pirate treasure hiding, the tools and tricks used to keep their loot safe. You imagine the careful digging of holes, the wrapping of coins and jewels in cloth or leather to protect them from moisture, and the use of natural landmarks to mark the spots. Some pirates even buried their treasure beneath recognizable objects, tree roots, distinctive rocks, or man-made cairns to aid in retrieval. Yet nature was an unpredictable partner. Storms could wash away markers, tides could flood caches, and the jungle's relentless growth could swallow signs entirely. Pirates had to adapt, using misdirection and secrecy to outwit time itself. There's a quirky tale of a pirate who supposedly buried his treasure beneath a large, crooked tree shaped like a serpent. To outsiders, it looked like an ordinary tree, but to those who knew, it was a landmark as unmistakable as any map. Unfortunately, years later, a lightning strike split the tree, leaving only a jagged stump, and the treasure's location was lost. Historians still puzzle over how much pirates relied on such natural markers versus written or verbal instructions. Some argue that the secret language of landmarks was more reliable than fragile maps, especially in a world without GPS or detailed charts. You pause beside a cluster of coral encrusted rocks and run your fingers over their rough surfaces, imagining how centuries ago a pirate might have crouched here, hiding his loot in a small chest before disappearing into the jungle. The sun rises higher, warming your skin and illuminating the sparkling sea. You feel a sense of timelessness, a connection to those long gone but never forgotten. The treasure might remain buried, lost beneath layers of earth and myth, but the stories it inspired are alive and vibrant, guiding your journey forward. You take a deep breath, the ocean breeze filling your lungs, and step onward, ready for whatever secrets lie ahead. The jungle whispers around you, alive with the subtle sounds of rustling leaves and distant bird calls. A gentle breeze stirs the air, carrying with it the faint scent of salt and earth, blending sea and soil into a quiet harmony. You find yourself drawn deeper into the greenery, each step taking you closer to secrets hidden for centuries beneath the thick canopy. You pause beside an ancient tree, its roots twisting and gnarled like the fingers of time itself. At its base, the earth has been disturbed. Recently, perhaps, or maybe long ago, it's hard to tell. You brush aside leaves and soil, revealing a worn wooden box bound with rusted iron, its surface mottled by age and weather. Inside, the glint of tarnished coins and a small leather pouch catch your eye. You pick up the pouch and find it contains seeds, odd companions to silver and gold. The idea is curious, treasures of wealth and life tucked away together. Pirates, after all, were not just thieves but survivors, sometimes planting seeds for futures uncertain. The act of hiding treasure was more than mere greed. It was a complex dance of hope, fear, and pragmatism. Sometimes the treasure was meant to feed or sustain, rather than simply enrich. Some pirates buried food supplies, tools, and seeds to sustain crews stranded or on the move. Historians still debate the true nature of these caches. Were they carefully guarded hoards of wealth, or practical stockpiles designed for survival? Perhaps they were both, layered in meaning and purpose. You take a moment to imagine the pirate who hid this box, their heart pounding with a mix of urgency and hope, unsure if they would ever return. The jungle seems to listen, holding its breath as if sharing the secret with you alone. You cover the box gently and step back, the weight of history settling around you like a soft cloak. The treasure's story is never just about gold. It's about the lives intertwined with it, the risks taken, and the dreams buried alongside. With a final glance at the ancient tree, you continue your journey, the quiet mystery of the jungle urging you forward. The afternoon sun filters through the dense canopy, casting mottled patches of light that dance gently on the forest floor. You move slowly, your footsteps cushioned by moss and fallen leaves, the air thick with the earthy scent of wood and damp soil. The world here feels suspended in time, both ancient and alive. You pause beside a cluster of smooth stones arranged in a rough circle. Their placement seems deliberate, a silent message encoded in the landscape. You reach out and trace the edges of one stone, feeling the cool texture beneath your fingers, wondering if it was a marker, a boundary, or a clue left behind. Pirates often used natural and man made markers like these to conceal the locations of their treasures. These symbols might have been simple to outsiders, but rich with meaning for those who knew the secret language. A circle of stones, a carved notch on a tree, or a pile of coral could all serve as signs to guide or mislead. There's an intriguing story about a pirate crew who buried their treasure beneath a ring of stones, each stone marked with a secret symbol only understood by the captain and his closest men. Years later, the stones remained, but the meaning was lost to time, leaving treasure hunters puzzled and frustrated. Historians still wonder whether such markers were widespread or rare, and whether they were reliable guides or elaborate traps. The shifting landscape and the passage of years could easily obscure or erase even the most carefully planned signs. You feel a thrill at the thought of deciphering this silent code, the possibility that the ground beneath you holds stories waiting to be uncovered. Nearby, the sound of a distant waterfall mingles with the chatter of birds, creating a serene soundtrack that contrasts with the dangerous secrets hidden here. You take a deep breath, savoring the moment, feeling the weight of history and mystery wrapped around you like a cloak. The treasure you seek might be lost, but the journey, the search, the discovery, the questions is a treasure in itself. You rise and continue your path, the sun dipping lower, painting the world in soft gold. The forest thins as you near the edge of a steep cliff, overlooking the endless expanse of the ocean. The salty breeze whistles past, carrying with it the cries of distant gulls and the rhythmic crashing of waves far below. You lean on a weathered wooden railing, rough against your palms, and let your gaze wander over the vast blue horizon stretching beyond the curve of the earth. From this vantage point, you imagine the pirate ships that once sailed these waters, sleek vessels slicing through the waves, their sails billowing in the wind, their crews driven by desperation and greed, but also by camaraderie and dreams of freedom. This was their world, a place of peril and possibility. The cliff's edge is scattered with jagged rocks, and you notice strange markings etched into the stone, faint lines that might be natural fissures or deliberate carvings. You crouch and run your fingers over them, pondering whether these were messages left behind by those who hope to protect their secrets from prying eyes. Pirates often use natural landmarks like cliffs, rocks, and distinctive trees to guide themselves or to hide treasure. The markings might have been a form of code, an early form of GPS, if you will, primitive yet effective. There's a story of a pirate crew that etched a series of symbols into a cliff face, each symbol corresponding to a step in a secret route to their hidden cache. This code was so intricate that only the captain and a trusted few could decipher it, and when the captain was lost at sea, the treasure's location vanished with him. Historians still debate whether these carvings were common or exceptional. Some think they were part of a larger tradition of maritime navigation and secrecy, while others see them as isolated anecdotes, romanticized over time. You stand up, letting the wind tug gently at your clothes, and close your eyes for a moment, feeling the pulse of the sea and sky. The treasure's allure lies not just in gold or jewels, but in the stories, the cunning, and the relentless hope that kept pirates searching, hiding, and dreaming. As the sun dips lower, casting the sky in warm hues of orange and pink, you turn from the cliff and head back into the embrace of the forest, carrying the weight of history with each step. The treasure may remain out of reach, but the journey is far from over. The forest canopy shifts overhead as you make your way down a winding trail, the dappled sunlight weaving patterns on the leaf strewn path. The scent of salt and pine mingles in the air, refreshing and sharp, reminding you of the nearby ocean's eternal presence. Your boots crunch softly against twigs and stones, the rhythm steady and comforting in the quiet embrace of the island. You pause by a peculiar tree, its trunk twisted and scarred, bearing a deep groove shaped like an arrow pointing toward the sea. The bark is rough under your fingers, worn smooth in places from countless touches over the years. You wonder who made this mark. Was it a pirate signaling a secret path, a wary sailor's warning, or just nature's own artistry? Such natural markers were common tools in the pirate's arsenal for concealing treasure. Instead of relying solely on maps, which could be lost or stolen, they often used the landscape itself as a cryptic guide. Trees with unique shapes, rocks stacked in strange formations, or hidden caves could all act as beacons for those who knew how to read them. There's a fascinating tale of a pirate who allegedly carved an arrow into a tree to indicate a nearby buried chest, but over time, new growth concealed the mark, leading to years of fruitless searching by those who followed it blindly. Historians debate how effective these signs were in practice. Some argue that nature's unpredictability made them unreliable, while others believe that the combination of landmarks and coded maps created a system resilient enough for their purposes. You trace the arrow with your finger and feel a connection across centuries, a silent conversation between past and present, a language beyond words. As the sun filters through the leaves, casting a warm glow, you feel the pulse of the island beneath your feet, alive with secrets and stories waiting to be discovered. The treasure may still be hidden, but the clues it left behind guide you gently onward. You breathe deeply, savoring the moment, and continue your walk, the path unfolding before you like a story yet to be told. The fading light filters softly through the dense canopy, dappling the forest floor with golden hues as evening settles gently over the island. The air is thick with the mingling scents of salt moss and wildflowers, wrapping around you like a familiar, comforting blanket. Your footsteps slow, softened by the cushion of leaves and soil, as if the island itself is urging you to listen closely to the whispers carried by the wind and the quiet stories hidden in the earth. You come upon an old weathered cairn, a stack of stones arranged with deliberate care, standing like a silent sentinel amid the undergrowth. Each rock, rough and worn, carries the weight of years and the unspoken promise of secrets kept safe. You reach out, fingers brushing the cool surfaces, feeling a strange connection to the hands that once built this monument, perhaps to mark a hidden cache or a safe path. Pirates often used cairns, along with other natural markers, to signal to trusted crew members where treasures were buried. These humble stacks could survive storms, floods, and time's relentless march better than any map or written note. But their simplicity was both a blessing and a curse, easy for the initiated to read, but just as easy to overlook or misinterpret. There's a tale of a pirate who, to protect his treasure, built a series of cairns that formed a trail leading deep into the jungle. The catch was, only one cairn actually marked the real spot. The rest were cleverly placed, decoys meant to mislead anyone who dared follow. Years later, treasure hunters combed the island, unable to distinguish the truth from trickery. Historians still wonder about the prevalence of such tactics. Were these clever deceptions widespread, or the stuff of legend and pirate bravado? The truth remains elusive, wrapped in layers of myth and mystery. You stand quietly for a moment, letting the cool evening air wash over you, the distant murmur of waves mingling with the rustle of leaves. The treasure you seek is more than gold or jewels. It is the story of ingenuity, trust, and survival etched into the landscape. As night deepens and stars begin to blink awake overhead, you feel a soft calm settle over your thoughts. The journey continues, carried forward by the silent stones and the promise they hold. You take one last look at the cairn before turning back, the path ahead bathed in the gentle glow of twilight. Night has fully embraced the island now, the sky a deep navy sprinkled with shimmering stars that seem close enough to touch. The ocean's rhythmic murmur is a steady companion, its waves whispering secrets as they brush against the shore. You stand on a sandy bluff, the cool night breeze brushing softly over your skin, carrying with it the mingled scents of salt, seaweed, and distant flowers. You pull your cloak tighter around your shoulders and glance down at the weathered leather pouch in your hand, the faint clink of coins inside a comforting reminder of your journey. This treasure, like so many others, is a symbol not just of wealth, but of hope, of daring, and of the human desire to leave something behind. Pirates often hid their treasures not simply to protect their riches, but as a promise to themselves and those they trusted, a tangible piece of their dreams to cling to amidst the uncertainty of the sea. But as many stories tell, these treasures were rarely recovered, lost to time, betrayal, or the shifting sands and tides. You think of the legends of pirate crews who never returned to claim their hoards, their fortunes swallowed by the earth or stolen by others. There's an enduring mystery. Historians still debate how much treasure was actually buried, how much was spent or lost at sea, and how much remains undiscovered. Some say the real treasure was the freedom pirates sought, the chance to live by their own rules, away from the rigid control of empires and navies. The gold was just a byproduct, a tool to keep that freedom alive. As you look out over the water, the moonlight casts a silver path that seems to beckon you forward, a reminder that the journey is never truly over. The sea holds countless secrets, and the island, with its tangled forests and hidden caves, guards its stories closely. You let your gaze drift upward, tracing constellations that sailors once used to navigate unknown waters. The stars feel like guides, steady and reliable in a world full of uncertainty. You breathe deeply, letting the calm wash over you, your thoughts softening like the night itself. Tomorrow holds more mysteries, more footsteps to follow, and more stories to uncover. For now, you are content to stand in the quiet glow of moonlight, a part of this endless dance between past and present, treasure and tale. You wake slowly, or maybe you never truly slept. The breeze hasn't changed. It still moves like a sigh across the canopy, rustling leaves and stirring your hair. But something feels different, lighter, as if the island is releasing a breath it's held for centuries. The ground beneath you is warm from the sun earlier, and the soil smells faintly of iron and roots. The fire you lit hours ago has dwindled to a soft red cradle of coals. You lie there for a moment, listening. There are no voices, no footsteps in the jungle, just the hum of insects and the quiet hush of night creatures shuffling through the undergrowth. The island, for now, accepts your presence. You rise and begin walking again, slowly barefoot now, letting the coolness of damp soil press between your toes. Your path is lit only by the moon and a few slivers of starlight cutting through the branches. But that's all you need. You've been here long enough to know the island is more memory than map. You think of those who stood where you now stand, pirates who dragged chests through this brush, sweating, cursing, maybe laughing, possibly dying. Not all treasures were buried with joy. Some were hidden in desperation. Some were never meant to be found. The tale of Captain Charles Vane drifts into your mind, fierce, unpredictable. Some believe he stashed a trove of Portuguese gold before his capture, but where? No map survived, or perhaps one did, and we've simply never recognized it for what it is. Historians still wonder if these so-called lost maps were ever meant for ink at all. Maybe the trees were the markers. Maybe a twist in the trail was the only clue. There are rumors, of course, always rumors. Old women in Bahamian markets swearing their great-grandfathers saw a pirate chest split open under a banyan tree. Spanish coins washing ashore after a storm, polished like glass by time and tide. A rock shaped just enough like a skull to inspire an afternoon's digging, but rarely, so rarely, is anything ever found. You reach a clearing now, the same one you spotted days ago from a nearby rise. In the moonlight, the ground looks scarred, as if it's been dug up again and again by generations of treasure seekers, too stubborn to give up. The grass has long since surrendered to impatient shovels and greedy boots. You kneel beside a shallow pit, now mostly filled in by leaves and wind. Your hand brushes something cool, not metal, just stone, but shaped, too symmetrical for chance. You lift it and turn it in your fingers. A marker or just a coincidence? You'll never know. You smile to yourself. That's the trick of pirate treasure. It may never have existed the way we imagine it. Piles of gold guarded by skeletal sentries and trapped behind riddles carved into driftwood planks? Probably not. But the idea of it, that's the real jewel. That somewhere, maybe just beyond the next bend, there's a piece of another life waiting to be unearthed. That possibility is intoxicating. You stand and look eastward. The first suggestion of dawn is just beginning to blush across the horizon, a faint violet smear pushing against the edge of night. You've nearly come full circle. You've walked in the imagined footsteps of legends, touched the earth they might have touched, seen the world they might have seen. And what have you found? A few coins, perhaps, a carved stone, a story or two, whispered on the wind. But more than that, you've found the quiet, the rare kind, the kind that doesn't ask anything of you, the kind that just is. The treasure, it turns out, was never beneath your boots. It was the night air in your lungs, the fire you lit to chase away the dark, the hush of leaves when even the stars are holding their breath. You let yourself rest against the base of a tree, its bark rough against your back. The sky above is softening now, black turning to blue, stars melting into sky. A bird calls far off. The jungle is yawning itself awake. You close your eyes, not to sleep, but just to listen, just to be. Because sometimes the most honest thing a pirate ever did was hide something and walk away. And sometimes the wisest thing you can do is let it stay hidden. Now there's nothing left to find, not tonight. The island has given you all it can, so take a slow breath and let it out just as gently. Your shoulders soften, your eyelids grow heavier. You feel the last warmth of the coals drift away, like smoke into the dawn. The breeze is slower now, each sound quieter, softer, like even the world is growing tired. You imagine yourself lying back on that soft bed of leaves, your body gently cradled by the earth beneath you. The air is cool, but kind. Every breath sinks you deeper into stillness. The weight of your thoughts is gone now, like an anchor slipped into the sea. Nothing is chasing you. Nothing is expected of you. The sea murmurs in the distance. The waves rise and fall like your own breath, gentle, steady, timeless. You are a part of that rhythm now, a part of the old stories, a part of the silence between waves. Whatever treasure you are chasing can wait. There's peace now in knowing you don't have to solve it all. You don't have to dig any deeper. You don't have to do anything at all. Just rest. Let the stars fade behind your eyes. Let the forest grow quiet around you. The journey is over. You are safe. You are still. You are home.